This is HealthWise Alternatives with Jackie Bell, promoting good health through information and education.
Welcome to HealthWise Alternatives. I'm your host, Jackie Bell. The purpose of our show is to bring you information about natural medicine. Today, we have invited back a special guest who's involved locally and globally to educate people about natural medicine and how to tread wisely on our earth. Margie Baldwin is back with us. Welcome, Margie.
Thank you, Jackie.
Margie has been well-rooted in Marion, Massachusetts for 35 years, involved in community planning. She is rather well known for starting How on Earth, a local, organic, sustainable food system involving an organic farm and cafe and store. Margie knows that the lifestyle we need to embrace to ensure a healthy world for our children includes an understanding of natural medicine, a provision of local organic food, and the necessity to tread wisely on the environment. Since 1993, when it began, Margie has been involved with the Marion Institute. Through the Institute, she helped start the Paracelsus Biological Medicine Network, where she works helping practitioners and patients learn and understand European biological medicine, which is a system of medicine known to heal patients of chronic diseases without drugs or surgery. Margie is also involved with the Bioneers by the Bay, which holds an annual environmental conference in New Bedford, co-sponsored by the city and the Marion Institute. Today, we will learn about both the Paracelsus Biological Medicine Network and Bioneers by the Bay. Let's begin with the Paracelsus Biological Medicine Network. And Margie, tell us how you found biological medicine and what inspired you to create the Paracelsus Biological Medicine Network?
Well, it started at the very beginning of when the Marion Institute started, and we were very interested in alternative health. And in 1993, our then 12-year-old son, Nathaniel, was at summer camp, and we got a call that he was not feeling well, and they'd done a blood test, and that we needed to go immediately to Children's Hospital. So he got the diagnosis of leukemia, and which was, needless to say, very frightening.
Right.
So he immediately was put on chemotherapy, and fortunately his older sister was a match for a bone marrow transplant. So that took place, and after that, you know, there's something when you have a transplant, there's graft versus host, where the body attacks what has been put into the body as a foreign substance, so to speak. And it attacked his lung capacity. He lost 50% of his lung capacity, and he was on steroids. But, you know, Dana-Farber and Children's had done a wonderful job. They kept our son alive. But we were concerned about his longevity, you know, a young 12-year-old boy, and what did this mean for his future? We wanted to know about diet. We wanted to know about detoxing, all these chemicals that were in his body. What did this mean for his the rest of his life? And so we started to search, and a friend sent us an article, and it was about Dr. Thomas Rau at Paracelsus Clinic in Switzerland. And it just so happened that my husband Michael's brother lived in Switzerland. He's a glassblower. So Michael went over there and to visit his brother, and went to the clinic and met Dr. Rau. And Dr. Rau gave him a tour and said, "You bring your son to us. We think we can help." So the following year, he wasn't allowed to travel, you know, or go to school and all that kind of thing for a year and a half. And when he was able to, we went over for 2 weeks and learned about what is biological medicine. It was a whole new world in a Swiss, beautiful Alp setting with Swiss German and et cetera. It was a huge learning curve, but we took to it immediately because it was biological, meaning that it works for the logic of the body. They look at the whole system, what is going on with you, not the fact that you have a certain disease, but the fact that why has your immune system not been able to recognize this and fight what's going on in your body. And within a year, Nathaniel had 90% of his lung capacity back. And he went on an intensive detox program and an immune upbuilding program. So that meant infusions of vitamins and minerals and detoxing the chemicals in his body. And he's now 28 years old and very healthy and very well and very normal. So from our experience, we had a lot of friends that would call us up and say, well, now, what can Paracelsus do for this disease or that disease? Or how about this cancer? Or I've got a friend who's got such and such. And Michael and I started to be sort of, intermediaries for these people. And then we realized, well, we've got to teach people about biological medicine. And what is it all about? Teach the lay people as well as the practitioners. So we set up the Paracelsus Biological Medicine Network, and we started on training seminars, of which you came to one of the very first ones.
I was, yeah.
And you're an example of how people who are curious about other ways of treating people and natural ways of treating people, and not just radiation, surgery, chemicals, but that there are other modalities. And the thing is in Europe, they're that much more advanced. It's much more of a tradition, these natural therapies. And they have remedies that the U.S. doesn't understand and probably and doesn't approve of. And they have diagnostics that are much more sensitive and looking, again, at the whole system of the body and not just, in Western medicine, you take the head and then you look at the heart and then you look at you separate the body.
Yes.
And everything is connected. It's part of the meridian thinking in Chinese medicine.
Right.
The other big aspect of biological medicine is the teeth, which again, we don't pay much attention to in allopathic medicine, which I refer to as Western medicine. The teeth and the amalgam fillings, the mercury in our teeth, and mercury is a highly toxic substance, and dentists have to be very careful about how they dispose of it. They can't just put it in the trash, and yet we put it in our teeth.
Right.
And it can be very damaging to people with neurological diseases and the like. So when you go to Paracelsus, one of the first things they look at is your fillings and see how it works for you. And they do a panoramic of the whole mouth to see what's going on. And then how does that interfere with other organs in the body? When you think about Chinese meridian thinking, that this tooth is connected down this side, and something that is happening in an organ here may show up in your tooth, or something that's happening in the tooth may show up in an organ along that meridian. So there are other ways of looking at diseases and looking at the body as a whole system. So Dr. Rao has this little image that he always draws, which is called the barrel of disease, meaning that as we grow up in life, we have our barrel, and it's full of the toxins, the food that we've eaten, the water we've drunk, the soil that we've bacteria, and it all builds up until it overflows into a particular disease. So rather than treat what's at the top of the barrel, which is what you see and what has overflowed, you go back to the bottom of the barrel. What are the root causes of what's going on with your body?
Right.
And then how to work your way down to that root and to remedy that. And it's mostly around diet and detoxing and rebuilding. That's the sort of the three-legged stool in rebuilding the immune system.
Right. It's also by doing those three things, it frees the body up to be able to heal itself.
The body wants to be healed. It knows how to heal itself. That's what we're all made. It's a miracle, this body of ours. And Dr. Rao again refers to it as the upbuilding forces. The body has a natural ability to rebuild itself.
Right.
I don't remember all the statistics, but we regenerate skin and hair in so many weeks, and red blood cells, and every 7 years we basically turn ourselves over.
Right.
We just think of ourselves as constantly going downhill, but it's amazing how things
Right. So even
recover.
red blood cells, they regenerate in 3 months. So you won't have one red blood cell in your body that you have now. That's why just changing your diet today, 3 months from now, you can feel so much better.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And diet is such a huge part, and people don't realize that by, especially in the U.S., we do this thing about acid alkaline.
Right.
And our diet in the States is so acid because we eat so much protein, so much more protein than we need to, and it's mostly from red meats.
Right.
And if you eat organically, that's a big step in the right direction. But we don't need to have as much meat. Have it once a week, have chicken once a week, change it around with fish. And then it's all about the sweets and all
the sugar.
The sugar, the white flour, that's all very acid making. So it's really about holistic thinking, whole eating. I guess it's really referred to as the Mediterranean diet, which is the nuts and the fruits and the grains and the occasional
the seed butters.
The seed butters, exactly.
Yes. I found European biological medicine to be one of the most integrative approaches to health. Not only because it uses the old nature cure techniques that you find in Europe and homeopathy, but it also brings in the best of Western medicine, their knowledge of neural therapy and their homeopathics, the complexities of their homeopathic remedies to counterbalance some of the vaccinations and things like that are residual in our systems. Vaccinations harm many of us and need to be counterbalanced.
Right. Well, I have a 3-year-old and grandchild, and my daughter was very concerned about vaccinations, and fortunately was able to work with a pediatrician who was willing to, cut out some of them and then spread them out and not have them all given at once. Because I think babies now in the States, before they're 20 months old, have 30, 40 shots that they're given.
Yes, and so the baby's immune system doesn't even have a chance to develop itself to fight off the impurities that it inherited from its mother's blood.
Right. And the other big issue is around breastfeeding and the fact that getting those immunities from its mother is so important.
Absolutely.
And milk is such a complex protein that the cow's milk, exactly, that it's very hard for a child to digest, and they develop an allergy towards milk products.
Yes.
And you look at kids today, and the 3 big factors for kids in our schools is asthma, allergies, and obesity and diabetes, leading to diabetes.
Right.
And these are all very preventable, all through diet.
Now, the Paracelsus Biological Medicine Network, it's really educationally based, is it not?
Yes.
And so you provide educational seminars and certifications, which I happen to have one, and I understand that it's about 2.5 years. I went through about 2.5 years. We went through the advanced training and so forth. But it's really geared towards physicians, practitioners of any sort.
Yes.
Because I find that some of us will gravitate towards certain parts of it, and others, for instance, medical doctors who have the license to do more of the medical therapies, will gravitate towards other parts of it. And so how are you finding the response from the American practitioners to this knowledge of European medicine?
Well, I think, as you point out, a lot of the people that have come, they want a certain aspect of it, and taking in the whole spectrum of biological medicine is a lot for a practitioner to do. It's expensive to set it up. The diagnostic tools are expensive. Right. A lot of the things perhaps aren't allowed here. So doing the whole package is difficult. And one of our dreams is to be able to set up a clinic in the Northeast that would practice biological medicine as practiced in Switzerland. And we still have that goal in mind. But for the most part, people have come and they've taken bits and pieces of it. They've joined together You do the thermography, somebody else does the dark field.
Or the dentistry.
Yeah, we have some local dentists. So what patients have had to do is when they come back from Switzerland, they've had to sort of piece it together. Mm-hmm. They'll get a little piece here or another piece there. And there isn't a place that has the whole spectrum. There are a few clinics.
Yeah, that have a lot.
That have a lot.
Yes.
Have a lot. One in Vermont and one in Henny's in Santa Fe and a couple out in the West Coast. Mm-hmm. But it's difficult. You know, when a doctor has been trained in allopathic medicine in this country, it's a huge shift to embrace something like biological medicine.
I remember sitting next to so many doctors who were just shaking their heads and their hands, just saying, "Oh no, everything I learned, I have to unlearn."
Yes,
you know, while others of us who have only learned holistic medicine were just happy as clams to be there and absorbing as much as possible.
Well, for the patient, when they go and look at their blood under the magnification of the dark field microscopy, and they see their blood cell and what it looks like and how it is acting, and is it lumpy or clumpy, or is it got even sides, and you know that really speaks volumes as to their state of health. They can really see it tangibly, what their blood looks like and how it is reacting in their body, and we refer to it as the soup in which their cells are living. You know what goes into that soup. You know when you make a soup with organic, wholesome food that was grown locally and you know where it came from, you're taking all that in, and it's a very healing process. Right. And food is, what better medicine is there than good, wholesome food?
Yes. Now, when I studied, there were many doctors from around the world: Iran, Australia, Poland, Singapore. England, and so forth. Are there many clinics or micro clinics set up globally?
There are, yes, in Greece, in Australia. There's several. But you know, they're not necessarily doing Dr. Rao's biological medicine. Again, it's the same as in the States. They take what they have learned and they adapt it to how they practice it, so to speak.
Now, I want to talk a little bit about the Bioneers by the Bay, but just one last question about the biological medicine is that since the lecture series are really geared for medical practitioners, how can the average person in our audience learn more about biological medicine and start to implement some of these concepts into their health concerns?
Well, they go to the website, Paracelsus Biological Medicine Network.org. Dr. Rao has a new book out, The Swiss Secret. They can get his book on Amazon, or you can get it through the Marion Institute. Dr. Rao comes over a couple of times a year. He came and spoke at Bioneers last year here in New Bedford and was very well received. We just went to a lecture he gave in Florida, and he's going to be in the Boston area in September. So again, go to the website and you'll see those dates. And there'll be an advanced training seminar in September as well, specifically around cancer.
Now, Dr. Rao spoke at Bioneers by the Bay.
He did.
And so Bioneers by the Bay is an environmental.
It's an environmental and social justice conference. Its roots were in California and San Rafael. It started there 20 years ago. And Bioneers in California has satellites across the country. And we became a satellite 4 years ago, and we started at UMass Dartmouth. And the first year we had like 400 or 500 people, and we were just a satellite. We just did their plenary sessions, and then we had workshops. And then gradually we have created our own sort of mini Bioneers by the Bay here, with our own set of speakers and workshops that we have organized. So it'll be our 5th year, and last year we moved it to New Bedford, and we'll be in New Bedford again. It was very exciting being in the city of New Bedford.
What was it like?
Well, it was fun in that the streets were blocked off. The mayor very graciously allowed us to have the street blocked off. We had the Zeiterian Theater. You could walk around the city. It was a beautiful day. You walked around the city. We had a farmer's market. We had a huge tent where we all went for lunch, and we had books for sale, etc.
There was a youth program.
And there was a huge youth program. The youth program has just taken on a life of its own. It's very exciting to get, we have a big scholarship program where we get kids from the surrounding area and different schools that come and come for free. And then they do special workshops and special activities, and then they have some nighttime activities as well. It's just been very gratifying to see the enthusiasm.
And you've had some wonderful speakers, people who are very successful business people who have taken on the environmental issues, and you've had some people speak out about social justice.
Yes.
Who are some of the speakers that came?
Well, of course, now recall. We had last year Gary Hirschberg, who's the CEO of Stonyfield Farm. We had Elliot Coleman, who is a gardener in Maine. He's a farmer in Maine, and he does a series of books called Four Season Gardening. And we had Robert Kennedy come to New Bedford, and he spoke at the Zyterian. We've had just a wide variety of speakers.
Thomas Rao.
We had Thomas Rao, exactly. We had Van Jones, who's out of California, who's all about green jobs. He has a very exciting movement around training people, poorer people in marginalized neighborhoods who are trained in the new green technology, building solar panels, learning how to retrofit buildings, etc. Because, as he says, this global warming is not just about polar bears. It's about, the social aspects of greening and greening technology and how we're going to get people jobs in that arena.
That's very interesting.
Yeah, he's a wonderful speaker.
Very progressive thinking.
Yes. Yeah. And he's got an initiative here in New Bedford. He's been working with the mayor's office on this green jobs work
wonderful.
As well. So it's very exciting to bring it to New Bedford, because New Bedford is a city that it's on the rise. It's just, it's poised and ready.
Yes.
As they talk about the shovel-ready projects in Washington, well, New Bedford is shovel-ready.
Now, is there a way for local businesses or even just the local public to get involved with Bioneers by the Bay?
Oh, yes, they could. Well, certainly they can attend, and they could also
Which is in October?
It's in October. It's the third weekend in October. It's the 24th, 25th, 26th.
Okay.
And they could have a booth there. It's very open. There's a cost, but there's a huge scholarship program that we try to raise funds for. There's usually a free event Thursday night in New Bedford, a speaker and a reception. And then the workshops there's a wide array of workshops for around all kinds of things. So it's usually in the morning, there are plenary speakers, and then in the afternoon it's workshops around different topics.
Now, is this something that the schools are made aware of? Is that how the youth find out?
Yes. Yeah, we have a big push into the local schools. We had a lot of kids from New Bedford High and the surrounding schools come, as well as college students in the area. So again, it's getting the youth mobilized. It's just when you see some of those kids get up on that stage and do their slam poetry or their hip hop or whatever speaks to them, and it's just so invigorating to see them so excited about having this in their city. Makes them very proud.
Yes. Well, Margie, thank you again for being on our show. We really value the work that you're doing with the Paracelsus Biological Medicine Network and Bioneers by the Bay. There's just the repercussions in the years will be phenomenal, and I hope that you can have a vision of the fruit that this will bear on our children and their children.
Well, that's our fervent hope, and I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, Jackie. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm Jackie Bell. Join us again next time on HealthWise Alternatives. This season on HealthWise Alternatives, we will be interviewing holistic medical doctors, practitioners, and counselors who will explain natural medicine approaches to health and disease. HealthWise Alternatives is created by The Woman in You and Take One Films. Check our website, thewomaninyou.info for scheduling information or contact your local cable access.